Hi everyone, welcome back to the Spring Garden series. I know a lot of you have already gotten started planting your seeds indoors. And as those seedlings grow and get bigger, they're going to need a little bit more room to grow because it might not be warm enough yet for you to get them outside. So today we're going to learn how to transplant our indoor seedlings into larger containers so they can grow and get healthy and strong, and they'll be ready to go out in the garden as soon as your last frost date is near. If you haven't yet started your seeds indoors, make sure you go back and watch the first few videos in this series because we're learning together how to grow our own food in a quick, simple, and inexpensive way. And it's also so much fun. So first, what I want to do is check in on our seedlings in the grow light box, see how those are doing, and then we'll get into the transplanting. You guys ready? We planted the seedlings in the grow light box on the very first episode of the Spring Garden series, and they're growing very, very nicely. Grow light box has been indoors now, and I just moved it outside today so you could see how things look. But you can see there's some little tiny true leaves starting to develop on these peppers. The basil's looking great, getting nice and big there. The lettuce looks amazing, and would you look at these peas? These are ready to harden off, so I'll definitely be transitioning those to outdoors soon. The tomatoes look great. And I had to take the squash and the cucumbers out. They're up here on my table because they were getting too large. So these will be transitioning to the outdoors soon. These seedlings are not quite ready to transplant, but I do have some other seedlings that have been growing for about 4 weeks that we're going to transplant today. You want to transplant or up pot your indoor seedlings when you're still not quite ready to get them planted outdoors in the garden and they need a little bit more time to grow healthy and strong. So today we're going to transplant some seedlings that are growing in the small little peat pellets. We're also going to transplant a couple seedlings in these 6-packs. This is some beautiful bok choy. And then I also have some tomatoes growing in the larger peat pellets. These are the 3-inch peat pellets, and you can actually plant these directly into the garden. However, I'm not quite ready yet to get these planted. The nights are still just a little bit too cold for these tomatoes. But I want them to continue to grow and not to get root bound in the pellets. So we're going to get them planted in some larger containers too. Transplanting your indoor seedlings is super easy. The first thing you're going to need is some potting mix or potting soil from your local garden center. Don't use your garden soil. It's just too heavy and you don't want to bring pests or anything inside your house. So when you take it out of the bag, it's really dry and you need to add some water to pre-moisten it. So I've got some here in the container. I'm just going to add some water, mix it up as I go so all the water soaks in. And this just gets your soil nice and wet, and that way when you transplant your seedlings, they'll already have nice moist soil to grow in. So we're going to mix this in, and then we're going to get our seedlings transplanted. So you want to pre-moisten your mix so it looks kind of like a crumbly brownie mix. So this is just about perfect. So just continue mixing in the water till it gets to that consistency. And now what I'm going to do is grab myself a container and we'll get our little seedlings planted. A couple different types of containers you can use are styrofoam cups, plastic cups, these containers that you get at the garden center. The small ones and the big ones work perfectly. Now, one little container that I am loving this year are these Smart Pots little transplanters. These are super handy because they're a good size fabric container and the sides kind of pull away, so it makes it really easy then to pull your plant out and get it in the garden when the time is right. So the first thing we're going to do is transplant the little seedlings from the peat pellets. A couple different signs that your indoor seedlings are ready to transplant. First of all, here's the little baby leaves that first pop out when your seedling germinates. You can tell they're dried up, brown, they're falling off. And this seedling has its adult leaves or its true leaves that look like an actual broccoli plant. I believe this is a broccoli. So it's a couple inches tall and it definitely needs some more room to grow. You can see there's roots growing out the bottom. And if we just leave this in the pellet, it'll stop growing, it'll get root bound, and it won't be a healthy plant. So let's get this one transplanted. We're going to use the styrofoam cups for this. First thing to do is to make sure you get holes poked in the bottom. So one reason why I like the styrofoam cups is it's super easy to just poke the holes quickly in the bottom. I'm going to poke about 5 holes here. You want them to have drainage. You don't want your little seedlings getting root rot and waterlogged. So the holes just help the water drain out. Now what I'm going to do is fill up my cup about halfway full of soil. Okay, I'm going to grab my pellet here and I'm going to peel back the netting. because I really feel like the netting just restricts the roots. The roots are pretty strong, so don't worry too much about breaking them. We're going to put our pellet down into our cup here. Just poke it down in there. And I'm going to add some more soil to the top of the cup. I'm going to press it down so it doesn't have a lot of air. And that's it. It's super easy to transplant. I'll give my seedling more room to grow, and we're going to get this planted out in the garden in probably about 3 to 4 weeks. Now I know a lot of you are also growing in these little 6-packs. These are so handy. You can grow a lot of plants in here. And this is a beautiful bok choy I've been growing in here for about 4 weeks. These are also super easy to transplant. First I'm going to get my cup ready. Fill it halfway with soil. And then I'll show you how to easily pop out the little plant in the 6-pack. A little too much soil there. Okay, so with these, what I'm going to do is just push from the bottom to get the little seedling out. And before I do that, again, you can see these are a couple inches tall. You can see the little tiny baby leaves that are starting to drop off down here. Let me get a good shot of one of the baby leaves. It's hiding down underneath here, but it is under here. See that little yellow leaf touching the soil? That's the baby leaf. So again, we don't want them to get root bound. I'm just going to push on the bottom with my thumb, pop the seedling out, pull it gently out here. You can see some of the soil fell off the bottom. That's no big deal. See, it's got some nice roots starting to come out the bottom. So we're actually transplanting these at the perfect time before they get root bound. And I'm going to gently set this down in my cup. Kind of hold the leaves up while I add some soil to my cup. And we'll get these babies transplanted in this cup. They'll continue to grow for a few more weeks. As the weather warms up and the frost date approaches, these will go in the garden and it's going to make a nice, delicious salad. Now moving on to the tomatoes and the larger pellets. I love these larger pellets because it's perfect for larger vegetables like tomatoes. Now I showed you how to plant these larger pellets on the first episode. But again, I am not quite ready to plant these tomatoes out in the garden. The nights are still a little bit chilly to get tomatoes outside. So I'm going to plant this tomato in this handy dandy little Smart Pots transplanter here. And do it in a very similar way. We're going to fill this up with soil. Now tomatoes are special because you can plant them really deep. And the deeper you bury the stem, the stronger the plant grows because it sends out roots wherever the stem touches the soil. So I get my little transplanter filled about halfway. And look at the fabulous roots on this tomato plant. It's perfect timing for transplanting. Peeling off the netting. You can see some of the roots are breaking apart. No big deal. I'm going to make a little indentation in my transplanter here. Get the tomato plant in as deeply as I can so it will grow nice and sturdy. I think I'm going to have to scooch it right over here to add some more soil to it. And we're going to fill the little transplanter pot up with soil. Again, this will help my tomato continue to grow, not get root bound. And the nice thing about the fabric transplanter is it's aerated, it helps the roots breathe better, it has drainage in it. Remember how we talked about how important drainage is? And this can continue to either grow indoors under grow lights, or I can start hardening off and moving it and transitioning to the outdoors, which is what I'm going to do with this plant. Wow, that's looking really, really nice. You can see this tomato plant is already starting to develop little teeny tiny flowers. I'm going to go ahead and pinch those flowers off because I want all the energy of the plant to go into producing nice strong leaves, and I don't want it producing tomatoes just yet until I get it outside in the garden. Okay, what's the next step? You got it, watering. So I'm gonna give them a drink of water and add some worm tea to it. Now I've used the Vermistera worm tea in my garden for about 1.5 years now. Absolutely love it. And the great thing is it doesn't burn your young seedlings. So I'm gonna add probably about a couple capfuls here. You don't need much, a little goes a long way. And I'm gonna give this a little stir. And we're gonna bottom water the plants because that way the soil soaks up all the moisture it needs and then the water doesn't splash and spread potential diseases from plant to plant. So we'll just pour some in the bottom of my tray here, let it sit for about 10 minutes, and then pour off whatever excess water is left. If you'd like to pick up some of the worm tea, head over to vermistera.com. They're giving the viewers here a 10% discount with the promo code CaliKim. So now you know how to get your indoor seedlings transplanted into larger containers so they can continue to grow nice and strong inside. When the weather warms up and you're ready to go out in the garden, they'll be ready. If you haven't yet started your seeds indoors, don't worry, it's not too late. Head over to CaliKimGardenandHome.com. Pick up one of my spring garden seed collections and get some seeds started now. I'll also link up all the supplies I use down below in the video description. Now I'm reading in the comments how a lot of you are learning so much and having a great time growing your own food. I love it. Keep it coming. Hit the like button, subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. Thank you so much for joining me here on the Spring Garden series. We'll see you on the next video.